So as we mentioned last week, today is the last session that we'll have on leading change, and it's my privilege to introduce not only a special guest, but really a special set of guests and an organization. When we talked about leadership at the very beginning of the semester, one of the first things we established that it's really important to understand what are the outcomes that you're driving towards. And we said, if you don't know where you're going, any path will take you there. In the context of leading change, this is particularly important and particularly difficult because change is constant. If we had this class 20 years ago and I was teaching you about change, we'd have a whole different approach. We talk about shocking an organization out of the status quo, making a whole bunch of dynamic changes to systems and processes, and then we talk about freezing it and locking that in. That's not the way it works anymore. Change is constant. To be successful in a changing world requires something that we call stakeholder leadership. And this is the challenge of leaders for today's organizations. You, as a head of an organization, have multiple stakeholders to which you're responsible. And each of them wants a different piece of you. Each of them is important. Each of them has needs that you need to satisfy. This is ultimately the leadership challenge. For Social Advocates for Youth, as an organization, they model what we talk about in leadership, which is making a difference. Making a difference in the community in which we all live. So Matt Martin, as the CEO of this organization, has a tremendous task in front of him. He not only has to deliver results for the most important constituents, the kids that he's serving, but in order to be successful, he needs to motivate and engage his staff, his volunteers, his board members, community at large, and subsets within each of those groups. When you hear his story today, you'll not only learn about how he does it, but how he mobilizes others to be part of his leadership. We'll say that he creates a leadership-full organization, and that's the ultimate testament to his skill as a leader. When we put together this class, I couldn't think of anyone who I'd be more proud to introduce as an outstanding leader, someone who makes a difference every day, and it's my pleasure now to turn the mic over to him, Matt Martin, Social Advocates for Youth.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So here we are, together this morning on a Monday morning, 8 a.m. Thanks for coming out and taking the time to have this conversation with us today. I brought with me, because Social Advocates for Youth is about the community, not any one person can do this work alone. Leadership has everything to do with togetherness and being focused for one cause and moving that one cause forward together. So I brought with me a community of leaders of myself with me this morning because they represent what Social Advocates for Youth is all about. We have Francis Welch, who is a resident and staff member at the Tamayo Village. We have Mr. John Maislon from Exchange Bank, who is also the board president of Social Advocates for Youth. We have Mr. Nino Rabat, who is the partner with us in the community, who runs SoCo Hospitality and runs restaurants such as Rendezvous Bistro, Flipside Grill in Santa Rosa, as well as Space 25 on Courthouse Square. And lastly, Kat Svengros, who is the Director of Development at Social Advocates for Youth. And again, I'm Matt Martin, and I get to be the Executive Director of Social Advocates for Youth. But that's not all I get to be. I also get to be the game show host for the greatest new game show that's hitting the waves right now. It is Name That Leader. So welcome our studio audience to Name That Leader. We have three lovely assistants, Nino, John, and Francis, who's going to be coming down to the studio audience. We're looking for 3 contestants this morning for Name That Leader. Go ahead, raise your hand if you want to be a contestant on Name That Leader this morning. Go right ahead. You smiling back there, I see you smiling. Raise your hand, come on. We need 3 contestants for Name That Leader. Look at our beautiful assistants. We tried to get them to wear evening gowns, but we couldn't do it. Come on, let's get contestants for Name That Leader. You okay?
How can I get this one?
I don't know. Okay. One more contestant. One more contestant. Do we have 3 contestants? Francis, what's happening? What's wrong? Right here. I heard it right here. There we go. Come on up, Mr. There with the black tie. He's all about business here this morning.
Okay.
Come on down. Come on down. Your name?
Jesse Red.
Jesse
Red.
Red. Jesse Red. Give it up for Jesse Red.
Amanda Pizzamenti.
Amanda Pizzamenti. And Mr. Cool.
I'm Sam.
Sam. Just one name. One name is fine for Sam. Okay, so the rules are simple on Name That Leader. Up on the screen in a moment, we're going to put a picture of a leader. Could be a leader from the past. It could be a leader from the present. And we're going to be asking our wonderful contestants to name that leader. So, Kat, if you will, please. It is not your grandfather. Name that leader.
No idea. I don't know.
Pass.
Pass.
No way. I have no idea.
No way, I don't have any idea. Is there anyone out there who knows who this leader is? I can guarantee you've heard his name.
You've eaten his food. Hello. Maybe not this morning.
Wait, I think we have. Well, I think we have a guess.
Is it Kraft?
Kraft Foods. Anyone out there?
He's from Santa Rosa. Ooh.
Oh, the wall of the studio audience.
Hubbub.
Kat, could you please tell us who this leader is? Luther Burbank, everybody. Who had Luther Burbank? Who had Luther Burbank? There you go, way in the back. Thank you. Okay, next up, leader number 2. Let's start down this end.
Hugo Chavez.
What's that again?
Hugo Chavez.
Hugo Chavez. Yay! We get a winner. We have a winner. And our last leader of the morning, name that leader. Oh yeah, sure. Oh no, I think really.
Actually, no. Okay, I don't know.
We don't know.
I also don't know. I know she's a Supreme Court justice. I forgot her name though.
Who is this leader right here? I can't hear you. Sonia Sotomayor. There you go. Congratulations. Hey, before we let our wonderful contestants go, give them a round of applause, please. Thank you for playing Name That Leader. Okay, so what makes a leader? You just had 3 very different leaders that we were thinking about. Sonia Sotomayor, Hugo Chavez, and Luther Burbank. Tell me what makes a leader. I hear crickets.
Nice.
Crickets? Not afraid of change. What else makes a leader? A motivator. What else? Okay, I gotta do like the church thing. I gotta come off the stage, get down into the audience.
Preach.
Preach, brother. Preach. Okay, what makes a leader? I'm coming to see you. I know I'm not. See, I look taller on stage, don't I? I'm really not that tall. What makes a leader? Vision. Thank you. What else? Someone who's not afraid to make tough decisions. Work ethic. You got to work. Morals. Some kind of moral guidance. Confidence. Was that confidence or competence? I know. There's a big difference, isn't there? Thank you. Confidence. Composure. Have followers. Persistence. Not giving up. What else? Yeah, you in the back. One more time. This church is a big church. Hardships. Some type of challenge that you've faced, that you've overcome. Maybe two more. Integrity. One more. Collaborator. Look at that list. Honey, I had to go grocery shopping, and here's my list to make a leader. Not afraid of change. Motivator. Vision. Makes tough decisions. Work ethic. Morals. No one said humble, so let me just take my photo here for a minute. I like this side, if you don't mind. Thank you. Confidence. Composure. Have followers. Persistence. Hardships. Overcoming challenges. Integrity. And collaborator. How many of you sitting here this morning, right now, Monday morning, about 8:15, here we are together, March 11th, how many of you, just by mere raise of your hands, who's not texting, raise your hands and say that you have at least one of these things going for you? At least one. So, if you have at least one, the thing that Dean Silva was talking about earlier, was that this leadership challenge is everyone. When we even talk about the work we do as social advocates for youth, it is about community. That community has to be composed of leaders. If those leaders believe this very simple core value, all of us, that there's not just one way. There is no one way when it comes to leadership. Think about that. Luther Burbank, Sonia Sotomayor, Hugo Chavez. Three very different leaders that we know led their respective causes and leading their work now in all very different ways. And when we go back to our laundry list, and when I ask you the question, how many of you have at least one of those things going for you, and basically you all raise your hand, each one of you have the power to be a leader. Because there is no one way. So, with that being said, we want to continue the conversation this morning and getting into what is social advocates for youth, and then diving into the leadership challenge, which is the model that you've read about with those 5 exemplary practices. To continue the conversation, what we're going to do is have Kat Sven-Gross talk about social advocates for youth, and then after that, we're going to have a panel conversation with each one of these leaders talking about those practices from the leadership challenge. And then we're going to come back to you. Because today I'm not just here to inform you. I'm here to recruit you. I'm here to recruit you to you being your own leader. For you finding that thing that's important to you as an individual and make that difference. So with that being said, Kat, take us through what Social Advocates for Youth is.
Thanks, Matt. Does anyone know what a 501c3 is? Wait, say it again. I have the mic, you don't. You have to say it louder. Sounds like a tax form. Exactly it. In fact, SAY is a corporation. We're a business. Habitat for Humanity is, Boys and Girls Club, The Living Room, any number of nonprofits that you know of here in town or wherever you're from, they're just corporations. The only difference is they fill out that form. So if you think about that, there shouldn't be too much different from how we run our business with how Kellogg's runs theirs. There is, though, there's a social bottom line that we focus on. And at SAY, we started for a very specific reason. 42 years ago, there was a group of people, some students, some defense lawyers, some community members, and they noticed that there was a lot of runaway kids running to downtown Santa Rosa. And they were getting picked up by the cops and taken to juvenile hall. Because at the time, it was illegal to run away. Didn't matter why. Didn't matter if you were a 14-year-old running away from abuse at home. You were going to be criminalized for running away. So 42 years ago, these folks said, that's not okay. And they worked together to become advocates, hence our name, Social Advocates for Youth, to change the laws and create new ones. The Runaway and Homeless Youth Act was one of those laws that began back then, and it has had new amendments and iterations since then. And that sounds like kind of boring stuff, but it was a real fundamental change because it was the first time young people under 18 had rights and they could stand up for themselves. So that's kind of how we started, but we realized very, very quickly that just changing the law wasn't going to fix anything. We had to provide counseling, because that was going to help address what these kids were experiencing when they were running away. If you say, hey, young person who's been through serious trauma and dysfunction, now you have a bill in Congress. Doesn't that fix everything? We knew that it wouldn't. So we started providing counseling to these young people. And today, 42 years later, that is a foundation of what we do. SAY has 3 letters in it. We do 3 things. We provide housing to runaway teens and former foster youth. We provide counseling to youth all over the county in schools and in every program we operate. And we help youth become work ready and get them jobs. Last year we worked with 2,200 youth all over our county. We got 170 of them jobs, often first time. We work with ex-gang members, we remove tattoos, and all of those things lead to those 3 things. So that's what SAY is. Now I want to turn it over to John, who's going to introduce the Leadership Challenge model.
Thanks, Kat. My name is John Meislan. I'm Vice President of Sales and Business Development Market at Exchange Bank. 27 years ago, I was sitting in your seat at UCLA. And before I moved up here in the community of Westwood, you really couldn't make much of a difference. Here, when I joined SAY, I saw kids. I saw kids, and you'll hear Francis's story, that were on the street. Dr. Silver lets me now be an adjunct lecturer in his sales and personal development class in the fall, and this might be the first time I'm the oldest one here, and that's a little depressing, which brings wisdom. Brings wisdom, and also hopefully inspires you that a fat 200-pound man can be a leader in this community. So that was a joke. Appropriate laughter. Insert here.
Insert laughter.
Thank you.
Insert laughter.
Years ago, Matt Martin. I just come out of the United Way, was on the board of directors for there, and I was looking for something else to do. And I had breakfast with this guy. And I was inspired. He says, John, we can make a difference in this community. And 4 years ago, this organization looked completely different than it does today. And it looks completely different because of this group and what Matt has done in the organization with the Leadership Challenge model. 4 years ago, we had a bunch of attorneys on the board and a $3 million budget. Today, we have a waiting list for people to get on our board of directors, which is unheard of in the nonprofit community. 4 years ago, we didn't have Kat on board, and talking to community leaders who are willing to open up their pocket and give us a lot of money to do the things that we do. And just this last summer, in an unprecedented, never happened before in the United States, an $8 billion organization, Sutter Medical Group, offered to give us a hospital here in Santa Rosa. They offered to give us a hospital for beds, for counseling services, and a youth opportunity center. Why did these transformations take place? Who are the leaders that got us there? And what makes these leaders stand out from the others? The Leadership Challenge is composed of 5 different points. Model the way, inspire a shared vision, challenge the process, enable others to act, and encourage the heart. So each one of us are going to have a little bit of different perspective on our experience and how what we've seen and what we've done can bring this to the table. So the 2 points of model the way are clarifying your values and set the example. So when we clarify our values, as Kat said, we need to have a message. Same with Exchange Bank. We have a message. We've been around for 110 years. We do loans. We are local. We're making local decisions. SAY does the same thing. We get homeless teens off the street. We provide counseling, and we get them jobs. Everyone from the top down has these messages, and our elevator speech when we're out in the community talking to people. You need to be passionate. Matt, as you see him going out in the audience, is passionate about what he does. Kat and Francis are great speakers. They're out in the community. They're talking to people. They're passionate about what they do. So what's your passion? What do you have a driving desire to do with your life? And how can you make a difference? We set the example. All the way down from the executive director, Matt, gives it to me. I bring it to the board. The board takes that values and the example and the passion back to the staff, and it goes all the way out into the community, as we're doing here today. So you guys might go back. We got spring break next week. At the end of this lecture, Kat's going to offer you a couple things to do. You could take that challenge yourself. You could go take a tour of the Tamayo house or the coffee house and see what we actually do, and you might actually volunteer, but that's up to you. You need to set the example by telling stories. As I said, Francis is going to tell you just a short bit of his story, but before each one of our board meetings, we have a youth come and speak to us. And what that does is it drives home the message. And we have 20 people in the room that hear that message and reinforces exactly what we're doing. So what's your story? I have a story. 2 weeks ago, I was sitting on the couch, and my son, who's 14, says, Dad, I want to climb up to Mount St. Helena. I did not know the challenge of this big task, which is a 10.5-mile hike. How many have done that hike? Okay, so picture a bald, fat man on the couch, and my son's asking me to go 5 miles up and 5 miles down. I said, what's not going to happen? There's no way, Max, that I can do this. He says, Dad, he was passionate. We can do this. Let's go. So I started on my journey, thinking that I was going to fail. My son did not let me fail. So here I have 2 teenagers in the house, not knowing that I was actually leading the way, modeling the way, and using these principles that I learned 10 years ago. Well, we made it to the top of the mountain, and I shed a little tear. And I shed that tear not because we made it to the top, but we made it together. And that's what we do up here. Every day we climb to the top to get kids off the street and fed. So now I want to give it back to Kat, and she's going to tell you a little bit about inspiring a shared vision.
Thank you, John. He cries a lot more often than he leads on to believe. So I am the Director of Development. Do you know what that means? You're so quiet this morning. I know you're usually louder than this. Anybody, really. What does that mean? You develop stuff. That's good. That's good. Okay. Anybody else? It means I get to develop the dollars that make the work we do possible. I wanted to explain that because it's a major part of being in a nonprofit. You think about how big companies that sell things have salespeople. That's kind of like my job. I have to sell the power of what we do for our kids to our community. It's not that hard because they're pretty amazing, actually. So I'm telling you a bit about inspiring a shared vision this morning. And I think the first part of that is listening. I got to spend 2.5 years in the United States Peace Corps a few years back. This is my neighbor. That's his truck. And he was going to drive that. I don't know really how he was going to see to do it, but when I first got to Armenia, I thought, okay, I know exactly what these people need. They need indoor plumbing. We need to fix the electricity problem. The roads are a serious mess. And I thought, that's exactly what I'm going to be doing, because I could see that that's what they needed. But I got there, and the Peace Corps said, don't do anything for 6 months. Because the only way that you can create a vision that speaks to your community in Yereknatsor, Armenia, is by sitting around and having coffee for 6 months. And that was going to be hard, because I was going to go and I was going to change the world. I was going to do something really good and powerful and have impact. And they're telling me to slow down and listen. Well, that 6 months set me up for the 2 years that I was there. This is my host mother, our grandmother. She's drinking coffee. So you get it, because I said it, you're supposed to drink coffee. You're a really tough crowd. You didn't even smile. She's cute. She was square and short. When she was young, she was really beautiful. She still is. Anyway, so in that 6 months, I learned what my community really wanted. And in fact, they didn't care about running water. They didn't care about the potholes in their roads nearly as much as they cared about an HIV and AIDS epidemic that was sweeping across their nation. They didn't care about sporadic electricity nearly as much as they cared about the possibility to export honey that they made in their village. And so it was because I sat with her and my school teachers and my neighbors and business leaders and the director of the post office, I was able to hear that. At SAY, we have to enlist others to see the future for our kids. And homelessness is really heavy. You walk around and you see homeless people and you think, what on earth could we possibly do? After experiencing a life of abuse and hardship, when the percentages and the stats say there's so much work that needs to be done for someone's life to turn around, gosh, that's hard work. But it's not, because what a leader has to do is inspire a shared vision. And that vision can't be about how hard it is right now. Because if we stay there, we're never going to move past it. At SAY, homelessness is actually all about hope. That's what we're inspiring in our community. And it's because we were able to see the future for our kids, that we're able to see that we're going to shelter 105 of them, and 90% of the kids that we shelter are going to go back home to their families and not run away again. That is the vision. It's not that, gosh, there's 700 kids sleeping outside tonight. That'll keep you back. But knowing what you're working toward will keep you moving forward. And that's why we've been given a hospital. And now we have an even bigger vision. of creating that place, turning it into a youth opportunity center where young people can go and get support that they really need. So much of what we do is about sharing our vision and enlisting others, but there's often challenges. Several of you mentioned that when Matt was walking around. So Nino Rabah, who runs numerous restaurants, has changed the landscape of restaurants and the downtown nightlife scene in Santa Rosa, is here to share about what it's like to work with challenges as a leader.
Good morning, everyone. I'm here just to change a little story with you. Certainly some of my colleagues have never heard that story, but I decided to share it with them today too. So, here we go. When you are a leader, you ask yourself every day, what can I do to make a difference? And that's exactly what I call challenging the process. My name is Nino Rabah. I'm the owner of SoCo Hospitality Group, Rendezvous, Flipside, Space 25, Spring Lake, Lakeside at Spring Lake. And I do challenge the process every day. Any one of you can do it too. Do you agree? Those who know me well would say they are core beliefs that represent me the most. And there is no secret. And help me be the best and give the best of who I am. 3 things: determination, passion, and hard work. That's exactly what I have in common too with Social Advocate for Youth. What connects me the most with this amazing organization, not only their determination and their hard work and belief to change multiple lives of youth in our community, but also the most important things that growing up as a kid, I can completely relate to their youth and the challenges they deal with. I'm sure you can agree with me, it's a great organization after hearing all their leader and passion, right? Last night, during dinner and while socializing with friends, I was sitting around a table and everyone drinking wine. And I said, I'm going to challenge my friend too and challenge their process and ask them about leadership. So I asked them, what do you think about leaders? And tell me what leadership represents to you. And while I was hearing them and hearing a lot of version of leadership, something took me back, way, way back. In memories that it makes who I am and give me the strength to wake up every day in morning and say, I can make a difference. And if I want to change things around me, I had to make a difference. Memories that I will share with you the truth for the first time. For the first time, a story that not a lot of people know, and I will be sharing publicly. I was born in Lebanon. Who knows where Lebanon is? I come from an Armenian family, which I was amazed that Kat is talking about Armenian. My great-grandma was the only survivor of the genocide, of the Armenian genocide, if you know a little bit about it. I grew up in a civil war. Growing up as a kid, I learned how to become an engineer to really know where a missile will hit, whether in our backyard or down the street of my house or in my neighborhood. Talking about neighborhood and tough neighborhood, I can tell you a lot about it. But as a kid, I learned one thing. One thing to learn, and I learned it very well, is to live is like no tomorrow. Learn to innovate and create and search for opportunities. That's what my family did. When I was a kid, we immigrated and we went to France. When you believe in yourself and you innovate, you attempt things that you might fail, but that's okay. Any one of you have tried something and failed? Isn't failure makes you want to succeed more? Generating small victories and learn from your mistakes, that's all about. And that's exactly what SAY do. They take someone and they decide to help this someone, and they work with this person's on one-on-one, and they really believe in this person's, and they do not stop believing in it. And you know that every day they make a difference in one of our youth in this community. Without mistake, we will never know what can work and what cannot. Passion, meaning it comes really from the heart. It comes from the heart, and you really strive every day to make it better, even under stressful situation, because life is all about problem management, and everyone has problems and everyone has skills. All it takes is how you manage your problems, and that's exactly what SAY do. Today they treat every task and every opportunity in this community as a new venture and as a new opportunity to make a difference in those youth's life. Hard work, challenge with purpose. In 2005, I moved to Sonoma County from France. And soon enough, a county that I never heard of, I learned that it was Snoopy's town. So everyone started to ask me, oh my God, you really moved from Paris here? What brought you here? So I said, the love of Snoopy. The love of Snoopy brought me here just because I wanted to see the reaction. And while the story of Snoopy was a joke, I progressed every day with discipline, and I really decided to make a difference in this community and to really bring something that I grew up as a Mediterranean, sharing and true quality in life is celebrate food, life, friendship, and a community. I innovate and create, and that's what SAY do too. As you heard, and I would like you all to join me helping this great cause, and I'm really honored to be part of it. SAY will soon, hopefully, start and establish the first 18 to 24 youth center in Sonoma County. And as you can tell, the excitement from Matt to Kat to John and from Francis, I would like each one of you to think today, how can I contribute to that effort and to be part of this great community? Innovating and creating, I am doing it too. I don't know if few of you knows, not far from here, in a few months, I will be opening the first brewery in Ronan Park, formerly where Latitude used to be. It will be named Flipside Brew House, and hopefully you all will come and visit me during my grand opening.
For a free meal?
For a free meal.
No.
I would like you to remember, and this is what drives me every day to be part of this great community. The more I get to know their leader, the more I keep relating myself as a youth. And if I didn't have or took chances in my life to make a difference, I would have never been who I am. And that's what SAY is all about. And that's who I am. Thank you.
Thank you, Nino. So we learned about modeling the way. I told you about that. We learned about inspiring a shared vision. Next, we're going to learn about enabling others to act. Francis Welch was homeless, and now he's part of our staff, and he's got a great story to tell. So welcome, Francis.
Hi. Oh, sorry. Hello. Is that working? Is that better? Okay. I'm Francis. I've worked with social advocates for 3 years, and over the past 6 years, I've also worked in shelters and other programs in Sonoma County. Before I was introduced to Social Advocates for Youth, I was homeless on the streets of Sonoma County for 2 years after exiting the foster care system at 18. Where when you exit the foster care system, you're given about $200, $300, and that's it. And you're expected to find a place to live, find a job, all within 24 hours of exiting. And the reason I bring this up is the point of enable others to act. Social Advocates for Youth has basically empowered youth to act as their own advocates, and creates leaders out of that. And I'm just going to go over 3 points that I see as being the primary things for enabling others to act. The first one would be fostering collaboration and building trust. It's an integral part of any organization, be it a nonprofit or a for-profit business, where you have to look at the idea of collaboration over competition. It is a lot easier to get ahead when you have allies in your backing rather than adversaries. And when you have an issue where there's no trust or a lack of trust in an organization, it's going to become a toxic environment where it becomes an us versus them rather than us as a community together. And I've recently, over the past year, worked with a group of local nonprofit business leaders and people from the Sonoma County Office of Education, Housing and Urban Development, and various nonprofits, and also homeless youth as well that are still homeless on the streets. And we formed a group called Sonoma County's Homeless Youth Task Force, which is a group of people we're collaborating together, which is a bit unprecedented over the past years, because several years, about a decade ago in the nonprofit world, grants were seen more as a competition. And it's been recently, because of the economic times, it's seen as a collaborative effort. And that would be the first point of fostering collaboration and building trust. The second is making it possible others to do good work. You can't be a jack of all trades. For example, if you look at the LA Lakers, if it was just Kobe Bryant on the field and 4 just amateur players, they would probably have no rings. Like, you can't just look at a single individual and expect them to do great things in spite of having poor backing. You need to be able to have a strong support system and people in there, and encourage feedback, both positive and critical. It doesn't help to be surrounded by yes men, people that will sit there listening and go, yeah, I agree. That, like, you need people that will be critical and will question you. And the third point would be good leaders do not hoard power, they give it away. Where you have to basically look at two different roles, one of a dictator, one of a facilitator. To where if you follow a dictator model, like I said previously, it's going to create a us versus them mentality, to where you're going to get nothing done. Meanwhile, a facilitator, you sit there as a leader in order to enable idea, foster discussion, and create a sense of community within your organization. And you need to distribute power and accountability. The thing is, as you've seen in like some other small retail jobs where you'll have someone with really no accountability and no power, to where their caring and their determination to do good is severely diminished. If you have no voice in what your organization does or your job role is, you are probably not going to care about it as much as someone who has a lot more accountability and a lot more self-control of that. And the way to do this is you need to empower individuals by training them and giving them the ability to influence change and foster a self-confidence. So with fostering collaboration, making it possible for others to do good work, and not hoarding power and distributing it, you're able to enable others to act. Which, an example of social advocates for youth doing this is, we've always heavily had youth involvement, even since 1971, to where other organizations may not have as much youth input, but we see it as integral. The experience from homeless youth that have been on the streets, youth have been through the foster care system, youth who have been physically and mentally abused, we need that input. We need them there to stand up for themselves. Thank you.
Thanks, Francis. Francis is new to our organization, and he's come a long way, and I'm really proud of you and what you've done. Next, we have Reverend Martin, affectionately called Reverend, who's going to tell us a little bit about encouraging the heart.
Thanks, John. Appreciate it. Before I do that, I just want to say, come on, Francis Welch. Give it up, Francis. Honestly. It's like you're looking at quite possibly the future executive director of Social Advocates for Youth. Honestly. And so for this part of the conversation about encouraging the heart, if you are a romantic or a hopeless romantic, raise your hand. Well, I got like 12 hopeless romantics. Thank you. Thank you. I like the people who can just say, I'm a romantic and I'm hopeless at it. We have about 12 of those. Well, for you 12 hopeless romantics and all you closeted hopeless romantics, I know you're out there, this area, so we look at 5 exemplary practices: modeling the way, inspiring a shared vision, challenging the process, enabling others to act, encouraging the heart. Encouraging the heart is your wheelhouse. This is where you're going to excel. I'm going to tell you why. Here in just a moment, what I want you to do, especially to the people who are asleep, what I want you to do is turn to one another, and I want you to tell the person sitting next to you one nice thing about them. Okay, you have 15 seconds. Go. Go ahead. One nice thing. You did a great job.
Thanks, man.
Tell those sleeping people you look beautiful asleep. I love the drool. Your drool is wonderful. The little crusty in the corner of your eye is just priceless. I've never seen that wonderful sweater print against someone's face before. Okay, come on back. There's a lot of love in the room. Come on back. Come on back. Come back to me. A lot of encouraging the heart. Okay, quite honestly, here is a non-scientific survey. A non-scientific survey. I'm going to cut through here, excuse me. A non-scientific survey. Rate honestly, no one's going to judge you, no one's going to put this on Facebook. Honestly, how many people just now, when that person next to you told you something nice about you, honestly, how many people enjoyed that? Raise your hand. Come on, give me a break. Come on, thank you. Look at, he's proud. He's proud. Yeah, man, I like that. You know what I'm saying? That felt good. There's nothing wrong with that. Encouraging the heart. Encouraging the heart is being intentional. And this is the easiest practice of the 5 exemplary practices of the Leadership Challenge. And because it comes down to one simple word: love. It is that simple. This encouraging the heart is all about love. And letting go. And letting people around you know, without any filter, how much you appreciate them. What they did today that made a difference. Or what you saw them do for someone else that made a difference, and you letting them know. Now you're like, probably some of you are like, what the hell is this guy talking about? And what does that mean in the workplace? How many people send emails? Honestly, some of you don't send emails. You're lying. Lying! You're all sending emails. Of course you are. Not right now. Well, maybe some of you are. Instead of sending an email from time to time, send a handwritten note. I do that. Good. Do that. Do you do that? You will now. I know you will because I just embarrassed you. Sorry, I thought you were raising your hand saying you do that. Handwritten note. Write a handwritten note from time to time instead of sending an email. I know emails are fast. They have obviously a very big role in the way we do business today with one another and how we communicate. But the handwritten note is old school romance, right? Old school romance that works. Also, people like to be recognized in front of one another. So, let's see. All right, let's see. I'm looking for someone. What's your name? Amanda, please stand up. Okay, here is Amanda. How many people know Amanda? Okay, I know you're lying. You're lying. This is Amanda. And Amanda's here this morning. And who raised a hand about Amanda? They know Amanda. Okay, I need a microphone, so maybe you just talk. So say something. This Britney Spears, or as Kat says, Lady Gaga microphone. What is your name? Casey. Casey, you know Amanda?
Yes.
Okay, so thank you very much. There you are. Casey, could you please tell us why Amanda is so great?
Is very great because she's sweet and nice and caring and fun to be around.
Come on! Give it up for Amanda! Thank you, Casey. Appreciate it. It's all about letting yourself. You did a great job. Did a great job. A+, Dean. A+ right here. Okay. You did. What it's about is allowing yourself to care about others in a way that you're not fearful, in a way that you don't have to worry about what the other person may think. I'm going to tell you a very quick story, and then going to move on to the panel conversation where you get to ask us questions, because I know you have burning questions this morning. Tomorrow, Social Advocates for Youth, we work with a lot of different kind of stakeholders, right? John was mentioning sometimes such as Nino. Nino is a tremendous friend of Social Advocates for Youth and supports us with donations as well. His support allows us to turn lives around. But we also work with the government to do that kind of work, like the county, for example. And I was just talking to my wife about this last night. So tomorrow, Kat and I, we have to go to a hearing. Ooh, a little hearing. It's not like that. But it is something like that. We have to go to a hearing in front of a county board and quote unquote defend our program so that we can receive funds to keep kids off the streets of Sonoma County, get them the counseling they need, and get them jobs so they can fulfill their potential and be SAY's next executive director. Okay, at these hearings, things can get a little dicey because as Francis was talking about, there will probably be 24 organizations there, let's say, and only 12 is going to get funded. So it's kind of like, it's for real. You know, Amanda, if you're available, I'd appreciate if you could be there. And so what needs to happen is that we need to defend our program. And the staff who works with the county, they get a lot of just BS. Not a lot of love. So what I did on Friday is I wrote 2 handwritten notes to the key staff people that we'll be receiving today in advance of a hearing on Tuesday. And I'm telling them in those handwritten notes, with that romance, that I simply care about them. And I want them to know that I appreciate them as people and I respect the work they do as professionals. Because we're all in this together. And that's what happens when you begin to encourage the heart. You're living that value, that exemplary practice that we're all in this thing together. Because none of us can do this alone. And since we're all in this together, we're about to have a conversation right now that Dr. Silver is going to run. And we want to hear from you. We're hoping that so far in today's lecture that you've had the chance to generate some questions about anything that we're talking about. Social Advocates for Youth, one of the 5 exemplary practices of the Leadership Challenge, or perhaps Nino's new brew house that's coming here in Rohnert Park when you want to know when that's going to open. Well, maybe we'll get to that was a joke. You can insert the laughter there. Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. Is my mother here? Because I think I just heard her clap for me. Thanks, Mom. So, Dr. Silver, if you so please, if you could lead us in this conversation and get some of these questions going, we'd be happy to help and see what we can do in terms of generating more of a discussion in the room. Thanks.
Thanks, Matt.
How do I get out of here?
Hi, I'm Beth Ajika. I am not a romantic. Statistic-based people like me.
When I think about, talk about what we do at SAY, you know, your first impulse is to say, it's for the children, we're helping the kids. And that's not really enough, actually. Because us saying that we're helping out kids doesn't really mean anything. What means something is what happens to those kids when we help them. So I said earlier, we served 2,200 youth last year. But what if all we did was give each of those kids a pair of socks? That doesn't do anything, actually. What matters is that 65% of the kids that are in our jobs program get a job. You know how many of them would get a job if they weren't in our jobs program? about 12%. What matters is when a foster kid exits the system here in Sonoma County, about 65% of them go into homelessness. Francis can attest to this. He's been there. But when kids live in Tamayo Village, where Francis lives, 80% of them move into safe housing afterward. It's important for us to actually take measurements of what we're doing, to hold ourselves accountable and be really critical about what we're doing. Because if we say, oh, we're going to teach them this class about whatever it might be, and it doesn't actually give them a skill that can turn into something valuable and help them become independent, then we're not doing the job that Nino pays us to do. Then we're not doing the job that they need, and we really shouldn't be in that business. And that's why SAY has worked really hard to do those three things we do. We focus on housing, counseling, and jobs, because we know we're good at that. We don't run an industrial kitchen and make cookies for profit or anything like that, because that is not in our wheelhouse. So I appreciate that question, because it really is about being critical of the work we do. Matt, did you want to add anything?
You know, Bethajika, I think that's a very good question. And this is something that a lot of nonprofits struggle with, because I think in general, nonprofits go at this part of the work like we're doing good, and that should be enough. But the reality is the world has changed, and things are a lot more sophisticated now than probably what they used to be. I think Kat mentioned nonprofit tax status is called 501c3. The C stands for corporation. Even though we don't pay taxes, we're still a corporation. And I think one of the things that SAY has embraced over the past few years is that we've begun seeing ourselves as a business. Our product is not keyboards or cars. Our product is support, hope, and opportunity. And we also understand to make that work, when we engage a business, let's say, on potentially becoming an investor, we have to think about what their interest is. Now, I will tell you 9 times out of 10, when I sit down with a corporate investor or corporate supporter of social advocates for youth, if not more than 9 times out of 10, they always say, I don't want anything back. I'm doing this because I want to help. But we've come to understand that regardless if they want anything back, we're going to give them something back. So if we can help, for example, a business increase their foot traffic, if we can take a friend of ours who's in a business and promote the work that they're doing, because again, we're building a community around the work that we're doing collectively, then it's better for them, and it's a better return on their investment. That return on investment that can be measured is very important to building the type of clarity regarding a question like that. If it's about like the San Francisco Giants' odds of winning the World Series, I can't help with that question.
What inspired you to get involved?
Me?
Sure.
Just want to be clear. There's a lot of, what inspired me to be involved? There was a gentleman up in the corner there, wave your hand, said about hardship, talked about hardship. I'm the youngest of 5, grew up in New Bedford, Massachusetts. I am a Red Sox fan. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And that was not my point, even though that is a lot of hardship. I'll keep that in mind. No, but seriously, the young man, the gentleman in the corner talked about hardship. youngest of 5, grew up in New Bedford, Massachusetts, grew up in a pretty rough city, and I was the first one in my family to go to college. My parents were teenage parents. Basically all my siblings followed in their footsteps, and we just had a lot of hardship. I became an uncle when I was 10 years old, and when I became an uncle at 10, I became a parent at that same time. And I knew then that I wanted to make a difference in children's lives, in young people's lives. That really cemented why I do the work that I do. And now I do it because I'm a parent myself. I have a 12-year-old little girl, and I want to be able to teach her that she can give back as well. So I think it comes through the form of hardship, or the reason why I got involved and why I stay involved, and inspires me to continue to do this work.
Is this live?
Yes, it is.
What made me get involved with Social Advocates for Youth is with the population we serve, I know exactly how it is. I've slept in a truck and lived in one for a month. I've camped outside in tents, just outside in Petaluma. And it's really, every youth I serve, I fully understand what they're going through and want to do every part I can to make that, to not have people have to go through the same things I had to do.
I think my inspiration to get involved is twofold. One, I was a runaway when I was 12. And, you know, earlier you turned to your neighbor and told them something nice about them. I encourage you to look around and recognize that everyone has something, some challenge that they don't share, because it makes them who they are, but it's also really scary to admit. Because as a society, we don't walk around talking about how, oh, I was homeless, or oh, I ran away, or I come from dysfunction or despair, or any of that. And I think it's really important to name it in the work we do, because it brings us all together. We've all been at rock bottom. And I was there when I was 12. So that's why I do this work, because I know that because someone reached out to me, if we're able to reach out to young people here in our county, we'll be able to help them too. So that's one of the reasons I went into the Peace Corps. I worked with homeless folks in Petaluma and Rohnert Park, and now I'm here. The second piece really came out of the Peace Corps. I wasn't sure what I was going to do, and I came home, and I was in San Francisco, and I'd been 2 years without running water. Thank you very much. And I was south of Market going to some hip club, and I couldn't continue on my path because on this narrow sidewalk there was a man sleeping. And he was sleeping across the sidewalk, and there was a building over here, and on this side there was this big delivery truck parked, and I couldn't walk around him. And I literally had to step over this man to continue forward. And I knew right then that this is what I needed to do, because that's not okay.
Thank you. I also was out of the house at 17 and am proud to have put myself through UCLA. And in Westwood, it's very expensive to live. And at one point, we had 5 of us in a 1-bedroom. And it was very cramped, and we didn't have any money. And we saw some signs of one of our roommates not doing very well. And this was our charismatic leader. He was always full of passion. He had a great story to tell. He also was one of 8 family members. And he put himself in front of a train while it was moving and survived. But at that moment, I said, is there something that we could have done to make him not jump in front of that train? And so you always think back to that and say, what could you have done better? And now that I have children, we want to model the way. We want to show examples, and we want to have passion so these things don't happen again to people like you.
You heard me speaking about my story. When Matt Martin asked me for the first time why you want to do this, I look at him and I said, Matt, only when you have tasted the bitter, you can appreciate the sweet when it's given to you. I grew up, like I mentioned, in a very, very difficult neighborhood. And the more I hear really my colleague speak, I remember that I can share the same story that Matt talked about, or Kat, or Francis, or John. And there is one thing I can share with you today is when you believe you can make a difference, and when you really believe you can be part of this change, do never stop and keep moving forward. That's what make me be who I am and why I want to contribute to that. We all need sometimes a little hand or a push or a support. And if we can have it, and why we have it, we should take advantage of it and stand up and say, we can make the change and you can make the change. Remember, the more you fail, you want to succeed. And if you hear the story of any other leader, they will tell you and they will repeat, I have failed once, I have failed twice, I have failed 3 times, and this is the story of my life again. And that's why I want to be part of this organization. Thank you.
Hello. What are some setbacks that SAY has faced, and how have those been overcome?
That's a long story to tell. You know, back in 1971 when Social Advocacy for Youth was first started, the reason why it was started was because it was illegal for a young person to run away from home for any reason. And so, for example, a 15-year-old girl here in Sonoma County, she looks at her bedroom, then she looks at the streets and decides that the streets are safer than her bedroom. And then when she's out in the public in runaway mode, when she was picked up as a criminal and sent to juvenile hall. And how we overcame that challenge back in 1971 was that we were very clear, it's not okay. It is not okay for that to be the reality here. So fast forward 42 years, and here we are now in 2013. We run the county's only runaway and homeless teen shelter for youth not in the SIP system between the ages of 12 and 17. We have the county's only facility for youth coming out of foster care to come live with us and transition to their own positive, productive lives. And how we've done that, how we've worked through those hardships, those challenges, is as a community. Is because the community said it's not okay. And that's the only way we can get this done. We're in this thing together. We are absolutely in this thing together. Even if one of you in this room right now, just one, walks away from here and tells 5 people about what you heard here today, that's 5 more people. 10 of you, 50. 100, you do the math. That advocacy, that challenge as a community and us stepping up together to the plate is what it's all about. Those have been some of the biggest challenges we've faced, and we've only been able to manage those and navigate ourselves through them because of folks like you. Because of people like you who cared enough to say, I want to make a difference and I want to help.
Now, let me ask a follow-up because it's related to what you're just talking about and from the question before. For the rest of the panelists, what mistakes have you made as a leader and how have you overcome them?
Nino has the most mistakes, so he's going to go first.
That's right, that's right. As a leader, you tend to get, and when you are innovator and creator, you tend to really have some excitement, and the passion drives your excitement. Do you agree? When you believe so much in something, and sometimes you're so driven by this idea, you tend to forget to really look around, and your quick judgment lead you to mistakes. But the best part of it is, the more you make mistakes, you will learn that taking the time to really, really think and settle your ideas, that will help you avoid making mistakes. And yes, John, I have made a lot of mistakes, and I'm proud of them. Because if the mistakes I have made in my life, if today I reflect to them and I think, what can I change? It will justify why I am here and who I am, and why I want to keep moving forward without stopping, even I have made a lot of mistakes.
I tend to open my mouth before I think about what I'm saying. So, as I did with Nino, and I know you didn't make the most mistakes. So please be careful about what you say to others and how you're presented. Part of the leadership challenge too is using vocabulary and coming across in the best possible way to that person. As my boss points out, now we're in a meeting, and I guess my wife's been telling me this for 20 years, but I've ignored it. I have certain facial expressions where I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? And my face will portray that, so I'm really trying to, I'm sorry. So I'm trying to be a little, I'd be horrible in poker. I couldn't do it, so I'm working on my poker face.
A specific mistake I'll tell you about was actually when I first started in a leadership position, and I was set with making a staff change, which that means I had to let go of one of the staff. It's really hard to do. This is someone's livelihood. This is something they've been dedicating their time and energy to. And I remember thinking very long and hard about it, how I wanted to honor this person and tell them that this was necessary, because the direction we were moving required certain skills, and this particular person didn't have them. They weren't a good fit. And I was new. I had just started. I'd been there maybe a month or two, and that's hard to do because you don't have anyone backing you up yet. They don't know you. And when I sat down with this person and I said that I have to let you go, I remember she said, why? And I wasn't clear. I didn't want to hurt her feelings. And that was a mistake. She needed to know, and she deserved to know exactly why. Because then she would have been able, at least empowered, to work on those things for perhaps the next person that was going to require them. But instead I kind of backed down. And that wasn't right. And I remember finishing that experience and talking with my supervisor about it, and I was really glad that my boss wasn't scared and named it. And I learned from that, and since then I have found incredible value in being straightforward, not hurtful, not blunt, not careless, but considerate and honest, because it's the only way we're going to move forward together.
A mistake I've made in the past is several years ago I was working at a shelter and was dealing with a client at the time who, unfortunately I was younger at the time and just got into an argument, really hot-headed. I should have backed down, and I got stabbed in the leg with a steak knife. Because I didn't sit there and didn't think it was a good, I thought it was a better idea to sit there and confront an obviously a person with some mental issues, then instead of doing a procedural protocol thing by walking away and having someone else deal with it.
He wins.
Yeah, totally. You know, in terms of mistakes, when I first sat down with Dr. Silver to talk about this lecture today, he told me, what kind of microphone would you like? Well, he asked me the question, what kind of microphone would you like? And I've always just used microphones like this. I've never used one of these. But the way he sold it to me, I really wanted to try this, because it's like totally Britney Spears or Lady Gaga thing.
Baby.
Yeah. And I wanted to try it. And so I went to the back here this morning before we came out, and a very lovely staff person hooked me up and everything. And then it came out here, sat down, and the introduction is about to take place, and Dr. Silva does a wonderful job, like just off the cuff. It's like, God, that guy's good. And so then I get up, and I totally fumbled my intro about introducing the panel. Totally. Because I was thinking about this, and I was thinking, I'm used to having one in my hand. It just felt different, like being up here and better use my hands. And so I think when you make a mistake, as a leader, be vulnerable. It's totally cool. Name it. When you screw up, just say, I made a mistake. Do not hide it. People are smart. They figure it out. And you know what happens when we go into the grocery list? Remember the grocery list of leadership that you created? Integrity was in there. Integrity goes down when you try to hide a mistake. Do not hide a mistake wherever you are. Do not. Name it, be vulnerable, because it's okay, and then move on. And I had to move on this morning when I made that mistake. Because one of my challenges is I'm a perfectionist. And I hate making mistakes in any way, shape, or form. I'll think about that. I guarantee you, when I get home tonight, and I sit down to dinner with my wife will say, how was the lecture this morning? And I'll say, I fumbled the intro. Can you believe it? I fumbled the intro. It was the Lady Gaga mic. I was thinking about it. And it's okay to make mistakes and move on. How many of you listened to the stories of the youth on the phone numbers when you first came in? Some of you did. Good. You hear those youth talking about their mistakes. It's okay to go there and talk about your mistakes, because we're all human. And that's what, again, when we start talking about encouraging the heart and these 5 exemplary practices, we're going to keep that in mind, that through this process, we're going to screw up, and it's going to be all right.
We've got time for one more question. $700 people, not one question.
What's the most rewarding part of your job?
Right here, by far, Francis. There's no question about it. Yes, you, clapping. Yes, absolutely. Thank you very much. That's what it's all about. That is what it's all about. Everything else is gravy. It's gravy to work with a professional like Kat. It's exemplary to work with a leader like John. And then to have that gentleman at the end of the table who does so much in terms of his own business, and then still makes time for me, but more importantly, Francis and all the other youth out there who need our support. That is what it's all about. It makes it all worth it. All the long hours, all the, going to events on Saturdays, giving up family time, is what it's all about. And that's what I want to encourage in each and every one of you, is to find that. Is to find that one thing. Find that one thing and do it. Now we're here this morning, I said to you earlier today, we're here to inform you, but also to recruit you. But for some of you, it may not be your passion to get involved with social advocates for you. And so we talked about the leadership challenge today and how that applies to you. And that core value is that there's no one way. Luther Burbank, Sonia Sotomayor, Hugo Chavez, you. In this room right now, do we have the next Luther Burbank? Do we have a leader like Hugo Chavez? Do we have a Supreme Court justice like Sonia Sotomayor? We may. You have that potential. And how you tap that potential is staying connected to what you are passionate about and do that one thing. This morning you've heard about 5 exemplary practices: modeling the way, inspiring a shared vision, challenging the process, enabling others to act, and encouraging the heart. 5. If you felt that modeling the way was that practice that spoke to you, please stand up. If you felt that modeling way was your practice, no, stay standing, stay standing. I'm looking for where you are as leaders. All right, thank you. If you felt that inspiring a shared vision, bringing people to the table in regards to the work that you want to do, the cause that's important to you, please stand. Inspiring a shared vision. Now, stay standing, look around at one another. Look around at one another because you want to make sure you connect. Okay. If you are looking to challenge the process, challenge the established process and make a difference and do something a different way, please stand. Challenging the process. Make sure you look at one another. Who's standing up? You're looking at the other challengers in the room. Thank you. If, as a leadership model, it speaks to you to enable others to act, to empower others to act, please stand up. Empowering others to act. You got a leader right here with that green binder. I just want to make sure she's standing up for everyone. So make sure we tab her. That's very important. Thank you. And last but not least, I have to admit, my personal favorite. I won't be totally biased here, but I have to say I'm big for the romantics. Encouraging the heart. If it is something that speaks to you, please stand up. These are the folks that are going to build connections. These are the folks that are going to be networking and creating community in the form of making people feel valued. All right. Do we have a slide on invitations? Is that up next? Okay, you can bring it up. So, before Dr. Silver takes over and closes out today's conversation, we want to invite you. Again, the most important thing, do that one thing that speaks to you, your passion. If you're interested in potentially exploring a passion and working and advocating on behalf of young people and their families, we want to invite you to get involved with Social Advocates for Youth. We have a few things going on here coming up. You can see on March 19th, on March 19th at 12 o'clock, we will be having and hosting a tour of the Dr. James E. Coffeehouse Teen Shelter. Again, it is the county's only shelter for youth who are unaccompanied on the streets of Sonoma County between the ages of 12 and 17-year-olds. 12 o'clock, March 19th, please feel free to join us for that tour. Also, on March 21st, the Tamayo Village is the county's only facility for youth coming out of foster care to be able to transition in a living environment with supportive services. Also, at noontime on the 21st, you're all invited. And you can see that third bullet. Come on, raise your hand if you're a college student. Thank you. All right, that refreshing honesty. Lunch is included. Come on. You don't even need your meal card. You just come, you don't need to swipe, nothing, cool. It won't be charged, you're good. Please, feel free to join us. But most importantly, keep in mind what we talked about here today. Just one thing. Do one thing that speaks to you and make a difference. And before I turn over the microphone to Dr. Silver to wrap things up, I was hoping that you could just join me in just taking a moment and appreciating these wonderful group of people who represent social advocates for you.
Nino, John, Kat, Francis, Matt, that was incredible. We talked about having you guys here a few months ago. We thought that your organization would be a great exemplar of the things that we're teaching in leadership. And as we bandied around ideas, I might have hoped for an outcome like this, but I'm inspired. I knew we were going to be presenting an organization that does great things. What I forgot was the challenges you have to overcome, not only organizationally, but also personally. Because I have so much respect for all of you as leaders and the things that you've done and are doing right now. You're all accomplished in the community. I forget that you too have had your challenges to get there. So your stories are inspirational. Once again, on behalf of all the students here at Sonoma State, thank you so much for your time.